Is it visible, Deepa?
Yes.
Great. So hi everyone, my name is Reshma and I have been working with Zoho for the last 10 years now. I head the marketing for Zoho's finance suite of applications. So for those who haven't heard about Zoho, Zoho is a technology company and we build applications for businesses to manage different aspects of their business. It could be sales, marketing, finance, operations, pretty much everything. So I take care of the finance side of applications. Now, today, the idea is to talk to you about how finance technology can make a difference in your lives, especially for women entrepreneurs who pretty much are doing everything, right? So the presentation has to begin with this image. We all know that women wear multiple hats and they have multiple roles to play. And this is exactly the reason why you need all the help that you can get to get you some time that you can actually, grow your business. So let's dive into some of the common back office operations that that takes up a lot of your time, right? It could be anything, right, from invoicing a customer to collecting an old payment, or making sure that your business is tax compliant. Now, for all of these activities, when you start up your company, probably you're the only one who's doing everything, right? And as time goes by, you probably hire more people into your team to help you with these activities. But as a founder and as a key member in your company, you would still be absorbed with a lot of these backend operations. So that's where technology can actually play a big role to give you that time back. So we are going to talk about 4 key benefits, right? There are a lot of other benefits too, but for the time that we are going to spend today, we are going to highlight 4 things why you should definitely adopt a cloud technology. So the first thing that we are going to talk about is how finance technology can create that exceptional experience. Now, when I say exceptional experience, what does it mean? It firstly begins with you. So you as a founder, with the latest cloud technology options available in the market today, you don't have to be an accounting, geek. You don't need to have that accounting background. The modern technology is so user friendly. It has an uncomplicated UI. And the best part is all of these applications are available on your mobile apps as well. So at any given point of time, you have access to the pulse of your business performance, right? You are at a park with your kid or you are at a client's place. If you want to send an invoice to a client, you can do it right from there itself. So that's what modern cloud technology has to offer you. And the same experience that you are experiencing for yourself, you have to trickle it down to your employees as well. So imagine you start off with yourself and then you have more employees joining your company. So every single day, your employees also have to use tools, and employee experience is no longer just a buzzword, right? The tools that employees use have to improve their lifestyle too. So for your basic things like accessing your pay slips, or if you want to submit an expense report, these things used to be a very manual, mundane process that employees would have to follow. But there are a lot of technology solutions out there in the market today that can help you automate a lot of these processes. In fact, employees can have access to their own employee self-service portals through which they can view their pay slips, or through which they can submit expense reports. So there are a lot of tools out there that can help you create a great experience for your employees as well. So now we have spoken about you, your employees. Now let's go outside of your company, right? How can finance technology create a great experience for your customers? Now, we're talking about a lot of experiences, right? We're talking about UX, we're talking about EX, which is employee experience. Now, CX. CX is not just something that the sales side of your business has to take care, right? We're talking about every single touch point that your customers will have with your business. And a good chunk of that will be with your back office operations as well, which is at the time that they get a quote or an invoice or when they have to make a payment. Every touch point has to be created exceptionally well for them, right? So a lot of these tools in the market today also offer something called as client portals. It's something similar to how you pay an online bill, right? So you have access to Airtel, you have your own account in Tata Sky. So just like that, when you're running your business, you can give a client portal access to your customers where they can log in, they can view all their past transactions, they can make their own payment, like an online payment through this portal. They can check out all their past transactions, like a customer statement. They can rate your service. And not just that, they can just go ahead and update any personal information that they have with you through the portal. So this saves you a lot of time in the backend process. And this also empowers your customers to update any information that they want or from their behalf itself. Now, the same experience that you're offering to your customers can also be extended to your vendors as well. When you're starting out, it's probably one or two vendors, but as you scale, I'm sure your vendor ecosystem is also going to grow. And when that happens, you can invite them to a vendor portal. Vendor portal pretty much does the same function as your client portals. It gives a platform where your vendors and you have a space to share your purchase orders, your bills, the payments that you make, fundamentally enhancing the experience for your suppliers as well. And finally, the experience for your investors or board members, right? I'm sure there are a lot of times when you have to share financial reports and insights with your board members or investors. Now, with cloud accounting platforms and larger cloud technology solutions, there is a possibility where you can invite these investors on board to your platform and you can give them permissions, restricted access to the data that you usually share with them. Now, what happens with this is you don't have to specify a deadline to send these reports, right? That also takes up your time. So just give them access. They can log into your data with the restricted access and check out the information that they want. So we've been talking about creating exceptional experiences through finance technology now. Let's move on to the second benefit, which is automating business process. Now, when it comes to business process, right, every business is unique and they have different business processes. So I'm going to highlight three business processes, which is pretty much common to a lot of businesses. The first one being data entry. Now, whether you're a small business or a large business, you will have a lot of data to enter in your back office solutions, right? So you will have your invoices, you will have a vendor bill, you will have expenses. Now, there are a lot of time, either it's yours or it is the person who's taking care of finances, they'll have to spend manually entering the data. Now, many of these finance solutions like Zoho Books and Zoho Expense offer this capability called OCR. Now, with that, you just need to take a snapshot of the receipt of the expense and automatically a transaction would be created in the backend for you. So this saves you a lot of time and also ensures that the data is accurate. Let's move on to the second business process. Now, this is what we call as recurring transactions. So many businesses would have a lot of recurring transactions. It could be an invoice or it could be an expense. Let me give you an example. So if you have customers who probably have repeat purchases with you, or if you have a recurring expense in the form of a rent that you need to record. So instead of doing all these transactions month on month again and again, if you set up a profile in the accounting solution, the system will automatically generate these transactions, again, saving time for you. So this will not only create the invoices, but it will also send the invoices. And if you have enabled the auto payment option, then also collect the payments from the customers. So pretty much the entire back office operation of sending invoice, collecting the payments, and even acknowledging the payment is automated. And all you need to do is just focus on providing that service month on month. Let's come to the third business process, which you should definitely automate. Now, this is my personal favorite. It's about chasing late payments, right? Nobody likes chasing late payments. Now, if it is to get new sales for your company, everybody is for it. But when it comes to chasing payment, it's almost as difficult as asking for a raise. So how can you automate these business processes, right? Now, Zoho Books itself has a functionality called automating payment reminders. Now, depending upon the schedule that you have set, whether you want to remind a customer before a due date or on the due date or after a due date, you can just tell the system how you want the reminders to be set up. And precisely at the same time, payment reminders would be scheduled to their customers. So this essentially takes off the burden from you to remind your customers about payments, and the system will do all the follow-up. So these are the three business processes that I would definitely recommend all of you to try it out for your business if you haven't tried already. Now let's come to the third key highlight of finance technology, which is connected banking. Now, connected banking is not a buzzword. It is actually something which is happening in reality now. Now, when it comes to a business, there are a lot of touch points in a business finance where a bank is involved. It could be, collecting payments from your customers. It could be making vendor payment. It could be the salaries that you're dispersing, or even the employee reimbursements, right? On a typical day, any bill that needs to be paid, you would open up your banking portal. You will get the vendor details, vendor's bank account details, and the bill number and everything, and put that into your banking portal. You'll make the transaction, come back into your accounting solutions, and you'll record the same thing. Now, what connected banking does is it bridges the gap between these two apps. So, for instance, Zoho Books is partnered with banks like your ICICI Bank, Yes Bank, HSBC, and with your Standard Chartered. So, what you can do is for any of these critical back office functions where a payment needs to be made or a payment needs to be accepted, you can do it right from within the application where the context is fully present. Let me give you a couple of examples. So you're talking about collecting online payments. Now, through this integration, if your bank offers a payment gateway, then you can provide that online payment aspect to your customers, offer the different payment modes. It could be credit card, debit card, UBI, cash, and your customers can pay you online. And this can directly go into your bank account. Now, when it comes to vendor payments, right from your accounting application, when you create the bill, you can pay your vendor directly from the app itself. So you don't have to go to your banking account, log in and make the payment. Right here, you can make the payment where the context is fully there. Now, GST payments. Now, this is not a daily affair. However, this is almost every other month and every quarter and a yearly affair, right? GST payments can also be done from right within your accounting applications. Next is the payroll payment. Again, a monthly affair. So traditionally, if you're using a payroll solution, it provides you a file which you have to again upload into your banking portal through which the payroll salaries are dispersed. Now with Zoho Payroll, which is again connected with ICICI Bank, you can actually start dispersing the salaries right from within Zoho Payroll Solutions itself. And then another example is your employee reimbursement. Employee reimbursement would be, your employee expenses, which employees would be requesting for reimbursement. And all of these could be reimbursed right from within your Zoho Expense app. So these are some of the applications that we have in our portfolio, which are actually integrated with some of the popular banks in India out there. And all of these actions are pretty much possible for you to adopt in your business. And finally is the access to working capital loan. Now, imagine a scenario where you need to access some loan, right? So you would go to the bank, you will fill up a form, and then you would ask the bank, who will then in turn ask you for certain documentation in terms of your, last year's 6 months of business performance statements, your profit and loss statement. And based on all those parameters, they would issue a loan to you. By using the connected banking integration, the banks already have insights on how much of data is there in your business and how well your business is performing. And they would offer a pre-approved loan to you. And all it takes is like a click and a filling up a form, and then the money would be processed to you immediately. The fourth important point today that I'd like to highlight is future-proofing your business's compliance and security. Now, take India, for example, right? Ever since 2017, we've had a lot of new regulations that have come up, right? From GST, e-way bill, and e-invoicing. The latest one being e-invoicing, which was launched a year ago. But as of April 1st, 2022, if your business has 20 crores and above turnover, then you have to do e-invoicing for your clients as well. Now, if you are having a technology partner with you, the technology partner takes up the burden of ensuring that they are mandate ready by the time the government announces the deadline. But if you're not having a technology partner, and if you're doing all of these back office operations by yourself using spreadsheets or any other manual process, you have that additional burden of ensuring that you're compliance ready. And it's not just that. I think the most important thing that worries you about using technology would be the security aspect of it, right? How secure is the cloud to put your financial data out there? Now, most applications, definitely when it comes to Zoho, I can vouch for it, that all of these applications are built keeping security and privacy in mind. In fact, in Zoho, there is none of the apps actually even shows you ads, or we don't share the data with any third-party applications as well. And the people that you invite to your account to share the data also, you have fine granular access, user level permissions that you can keep to invite these customers, right? So these were a couple of points that I wanted to stress upon to highlight, why finance technology can actually play a big role in helping you manage your business finance better. Now, I don't know how much I've convinced you if you're not using it already, but in case if you decide to start adopting a finance technology for your business, please keep a couple of things in mind. And these things being, ensure that you are not looking for a solution just for a point problem. That if you're having an invoicing problem, don't just look for an invoicing solution, or a tax problem and a tax solution, right? So look for a larger piece of solution, which is collaborative in nature, which basically means that you can interact with not just your finance members, but largely your finance can interact with your sales can interact with marketing. So the data should be well collaborative between the users itself. And then it's connected as well. When I say connected, it should be connected to your banks, to your third-party platforms where you are using like a CRM platform or a MailChimp or whichever other platform you're using, where finance would require that data to manage business operations. It should also be contextual in nature. For example, it should give you the insights to perform business operations, right? And lastly, it's very important. Please also keep in mind these applications are extremely user-friendly because at the end of the day, your employees today are extremely modern and they're all working remotely. Most of them have started coming back to office, but they'll all be remote. So keeping this modern workforce in mind, it's very important to use technology that will not only grow, but scale with your business. So that's about it from me. And I'm extremely thankful to the Shewall team for having us sponsor this event and also for given me the time and opportunity to speak to all of you.
Thank you, Reshma, so much. I think that's a wonderful as a startup for ourselves. I see like it's a huge benefit and we can start exploring. Thank you so much. With that, we'll hand it off to Baduri, co-founder Shewall. Go ahead, Baduri.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Am I audible? Hello? Okay. Hi, what a nice evening. And that too on a Friday evening to see all of you here who have planned to spend their time wisely to do a better financial planning is the greatest thing that we could have all asked for. It's a very good it's very good to have so many people participating here. Being financially literate is very powerful for women, and being financially strong is definitely a necessity for them. Shewall, a mentoring platform for women, along with Zoho, is very happy to present FinNext, a financial mentoring conference for women with an esteemed panel of 9 speakers, co-presented by Yes Bank. Today's evening program is Shaping Your Financial Future, is designed to be conducted in 2 segments. The first segment is between 5 to 6 p.m. It's a panel discussion by esteemed experts, and they will be sharing their perspectives on personal money management for women. It's my pleasure to introduce this esteemed panel to you all. First, we have Preeti Rati Gupta. She's the founder of LXME. She's a very reputed and well-regarded finance professional, a valued expert, and leading women entrepreneur in the financial space. She also leads the advisory team for commodity and exchanges globally with a keen focus on energy. Prior to joining this group, she was a director with Navarathan Capital and Securities Private Limited, a member of NSE. Preeti has also been awarded Women Leader of the Year, just in the financial category, by the Women on Top and NDTV Profit in 2011, organized by L Group. She was also recognized for special contribution to commodities business in Zee Business Best Analyst Awards 2013. Known for her sharp business insights, she has set up LXME, pronounced Lakshmi, India's first financial platform for women. It's a very unique approach to making women build their financial planning acumen and invest seamlessly through the Lakshmi platform. And a lot of women has already made a huge, that platform has already made a large footprint in the country. Especially with the pandemic, we all saw that financial planning is very essential for women. And this platform has been the first financial platform for women. None other than, it's a great pleasure to have Preeti on this panel, who is going to share her esteemed insights for each of you. Welcome, Preeti. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Our next panelist is Pallavi. She's a banker and an influencer with 9+ years of experience in banking, and she has been a financial coach on Instagram. She's a very interactive financial influencer who has been asking and answering the right questions regarding financial management in her own beautiful community of 35K followers. Pallavi started to teach on personal finance when she realized it's not the investment, but understanding financial ways to create a lifestyle which matters the first. She has coached more than 60 plus people and conducted sessions on overcoming financial anxiety. I think with what we went through in the last 2 years, she's another very valuable person who will be very helpful in sharing her insights on this panel. Welcome, Pallavi. Nice to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Yes, we as women definitely need to have men as allies, because we need to have the diverse perspectives from men as well. We are very pleased to have Sanil, who is a regional business and program head of CMS retail group at S Bank. He's a regional head for transaction banking group for both South and East for S Bank. He's a commerce graduate with an overall experience of close to 20 years in banking, broking, and related realms. He has vast experience in the business of financial institutions. He also has a complete understanding of the capital market business and financial institutions group, and has been rated highest amongst the team twice on account of his ability to do trade limit utilization by the clients. His specialties include banking, business operations, CMS, consulting, customer relations, is just to name a few. We are very pleased to have you, Sanil. The panel will be moderated by none other than Bhavana Tu, who is the founder of Shenomics, the perfect moderator for the situation, who has transformed lives of many young women through their Lead Like a Girl initiative, focusing on mindfulness leadership for women, who will be reiterating the fact of being mindful while managing finances and making independent decisions. As a founder and CEO of Shenomics, a mindful leadership platform for aspiring women, her mission is to help women create a bigger impact in the world, and in the process, help organizations create a more diverse leadership pipeline and close the leadership gap for women. Bhavana has been designing and delivering mindfulness-based leadership training and coaching programs for women at leading organizations for over 7 years now, enabling women to realize their highest leadership potential. She has helped high potential women at leading companies such as Society General, Google, LinkedIn, Target, and Intel. Welcome, Bhavana. It's nice to have you as the moderator for this session. We're all looking forward for an engaging session. Over to you, Bhavana.
Thank you so much, Badari. It's a pleasure to be here, to be having a conversation that is so important for all of us women in particular, because it goes without saying we cannot fully own and express our power unless we are really intentional and mindful about managing and growing our wealth. So happy to have this conversation, and we can begin, Badari, if you like, right away, or I'll wait for your cue to kickstart the panel discussion.
Yeah, the earlier the better. Let's get started, because I'm sure there will be a lot of questions from the panel, from the audience. So yeah, let's go ahead.
All right, so let's begin. Let me first call upon Pallavi. And first of all, of course, thank you to all the panelists for being a part of this discussion. And let me first begin with Pallavi then. And let's set the context. So at the most basic level, and I know it goes without saying, but let's still call it out. Why is it so important for women to focus on their financial wellness?
You know, as a women, we always don a lot of hats. And when it comes to, you know, being called an all-rounder, a woman is always told like that. And, you know, it's said a woman can do anything. But when it comes to finances, we see that there is a decline in, you know, the knowledge that women have when it is compared to an education knowledge. And when it comes to financial wellness, I think what better than being, you know, financially literate. You know, when it comes to financial wellness for a woman, it always starts with what is financial wellness? So is it about earning money? And this is where something I tell them, no, it's not. It's about understanding what you have in finances in your family, being prepared for emergencies, knowing what is your debts, knowing what is your credits, and also knowing what is your investment. And this is something which is very basic, which everybody can speak upon, but rather than, telling it out, we don't do that. And the topic of, having a birthday party is very common, but nobody tells you how to budget a birthday party. But a woman does it in a very better way. So financial wellness comes in hand when it comes for women and money. And it is really very, very important.
Great. Thank you, Pallavi. Preeti, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well, because I know you're doing great work as well in helping women become financially independent. What have you seen becomes possible for women when they do focus on their financial independence? Let's start with that. You're on mute, Preeti.
Bhavna, hi, once again, great to
Yes.
connect and lovely to be on this panel. I think to me, and this is more about the world we live in. I think we as women realize that equality is on many fronts. I think there's a lot of, particularly when it comes to the word feminist, there's a lot of negativity associated with it these days, because it's all about really going out and saying, hey, as a woman, this is what I demand. I think to me, and I say this as often, and I've coined a term known as financial feminist. And that really says that take equality on that. And, this is more about women taking cue from it more than really telling men that we are equal. I think women need to take that cue and say, hey, take on the responsibility of your own financial security, your financial well-being, your financial freedom. I think delegating that to somebody else is probably the worst thing that you could do for yourself. I think, we are great in managing our finances. We're great at saving. We're great at doing scenario planning. We're great at creating our rainy day, emergency funds. But beyond that, when it comes to anything else, we just, so at Lakshmi, we did this Lakshmi and Money Power report, which is the most comprehensive study on money and women and money in our country today. And it says only 2% women, and this is across cities, it is across, personas, single, married with children, or widowed or divorced. And we did this study at, across 4,000 women. And what the findings were astounding, right? 2% women only think about, only 2% women think about retirement, their retirement and planning for it, right? Whereas high up there is your child's education. What are women thinking of when it comes to saving money and investing money? It's essentially child's education. It is family security. And those are large. So 45% women said child's education, right? But 2% women said, yeah, I've thought of my retirement. This is what I think we need to change. The fact that women have their own financial goals. Some of them are, of course, family goals, which is the great part about it, right? That we think about the family security, we think about our children. But some part of it also means your financial wellness, and which means your financial security. Are you really thinking about it? Whether you're working, whether you're a homemaker, you have whatever is your saving. If you actually, connect it to your financial goals and take charge of making it work towards it, I think the confidence and the security that you have in life, the fact that you don't have to compromise on a lot of personal and professional choices, I think these are just outcomes of it. But the most important thing is that as a woman, you are really living life on the terms that you otherwise demand, which is equality. And which is why managing money in today's age is just so important, to manage it and to know what your money is doing for you. If you're a homemaker, I hear this all the time, homemakers saying that, but I don't earn the money, so therefore I don't have a say in it. And my point is, you are playing an equal role in somebody else earning that money and getting it home, right? Um, and this money is being earned for your family. You need to be a partner. You need to have these money conversations so that you have a peaceful night's sleep. You know that your financial future is taken care of. And when I say yours, I also mean, of course, your children, your family, your husband, everybody, right? And that's the outcome. And for some reason, we just abdicate that responsibility.
I love the term financial feminism. I think I've heard that for the first time, but I completely agree with you. It is about equality. And if you are playing an equal role, even if you are playing a supportive role in helping your partner go out and earn wealth, you do have a say in how the family's wealth gets invested. So if I can, Preeti, if I can just stay with you for the next part of this question, then what do you find, especially given all of the benefits that you and Pallavi have outlined for why it is important for women and all that becomes possible for women when we do focus on our financial wealth and independence? What have you seen as the biggest obstacle that is getting in the way of that? Why do we not see more women then really taking their financial independence, ownership of their financial independence?
So I think, there are a couple of reasons for that, Bhavna. One biggest reason is the social conditioning. And I think it goes back to, because I wish I could say this was just India alone, but it's not. It's world over, it's globally, right? I think we've taken our roles as really hunter and nurturer very, very, even to this date. And I think that social conditioning tells us that as a woman, your role is to save, is to take care of your family. And the rest of the worldly bit, whether it is earning money or managing money, is what men do better. Right? And that has been the way of life for so many years that today for us, it's a given. It's surprising that women don't even question it. That why is it that men are managing money? And why am I not playing an equal part in it? I think based on this social conditioning, then the financial services industry, which is of course always been male dominated, always reached out. The communication was always to other men because they are the ones who are willing to take that up easily, right? I was on the other side of the fence where I was advising other women, and I realized that it took very long to convince a woman, because even if she understood, she would say, okay, can I ask my father? Can I come back? I have to discuss this with my husband. I never heard a man say, can I discuss this with my wife and come back? Right? And I think that is the problem, where financial services then say, listen, we don't have the time. We have, targets. We have, costs to meet. So let's just address the low hanging fruit, which is the men. So all the communication went out to men. It is very true that women behave, and our emotion, the way we think about money is very different than how men think about. I think most people here would have read the book Psychology of Money, and it really tells you it's more behavioral than it is mathematical. And I think it is important that we consider keeping that in mind. All this communication that's been coming out, be it the, earn an alpha from the index, make more than your neighbor, get a better return than that, never appeal to us women, right? But talk to me and say, hey, here is the way you meet or you build the corpus for your child's education, right? I would have understood that if you tell me in the way I think about money. So that communication is very warped. And the third, I say this, I find this, it's sad when I say this, but I was with a set of very, very affluent women, and they said we cannot have money conversations in the family because it's just considered inappropriate to talk about money, right? So I think to break from there and to say, yes, I want to take charge, asking your to-be partner, we ask them a lot about what are your hobbies? Do we think alike about, how we want to live our life, travel, whether you like to travel or I like to travel, what are the things that mean a lot to you in life? But we shy away from asking what are your What is your behavior towards money? How do you think about money? Because it's inappropriate. And I think all of this social conditioning, backed by the fact that the ecosystem is really not reaching out to you, is what sort of has made women stay out of this entire ecosystem. Again, Bhavna, I would really like to insist on the fact that it is up to women, right? Just like certain career choices were always not the given for us, but we rose to the occasion and we said, hey, this is my passion, I want to do it, right? Similarly, for money management, that's the same thing that we have to do. That I understand that this is something that we've not done for a long time, but I want to do this, I need to do this, and really step up to it. So I think lots of reasons why we didn't do it, but a very large reason why we should do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the case for doing this is very, very clear. So let's talk about how we can make this happen. Sanil, thank you for joining us. Would love for you to join the conversation on this and share with us how, when women do begin this journey, of course, this step one at the most basic, fundamental, rudimentary level is we start saving, which I think a lot of women do very well. But my question to you, Sanil, would be, what would be a few rules that you would lay out for women when it comes to step one, which is starting to save for themselves and for their family's future?
Thank you for having me, and I'm sorry I joined a bit late, some technical glitches. So yeah, thanks for having me again. And I was listening to Preeti when she was talking about how the social fabric is in India in terms of women, being involved in decision making about finances, etc. I agree with her, and I would like to even extend it a little bit that when a woman is there in the family to save, there is, I mean, as a banker as well as a normal individual also, we believe that there is better saving in the house. There is a balance between how much you spend and how much you save from the earnings that you have. I mean, most of us are into services, or there is a fixed amount which is coming into a family on a monthly basis. Though there is always a culture in India that if there is a woman in the family who's kind of taking charge of these things, there is always a better amount of saving which happens there. So yeah, so to answer to the question or the point that you mentioned about the savings which happens as a banker, what is the thought that we put into it, and what is the kind of support or the kind of solutions we give for savings as such. So we have seen in banking that as a saving product, so there is a decent amount of saving which happens from the households in a banking system around from the entire current account saving account balance, which bankers call as CASA. Around 18 to 20% comes from the household savings. So if you look at most of the banks kind of ratio, this is hovering around that kind of a range. So there is a good importance given to this kind of a segment wherein banks think about what kind of solutions are good for the household, and a part of which is definitely focused towards women, working women or otherwise as well. What kind of solutions, what kind of incremental incentives can be given to the saving habits of people, especially women as well. So we do have, I mean, I'm not talking only about Yes Bank at this juncture, because across banks there are flexible options within the individual space wherein you have excess money available. You can park it in a old-fashioned account or a savings account, which we call it in the banking parlance, which is meant for the individuals. We also have seen that linking of mutual funds and other revenues wherein the investments can be parked, getting linked to these kind of arrangements, or equity investments as a part of this arrangement. So if you see, most of the banks have a 3-in-1 account, they call it. So if you have a habit of investing into certain stocks or commodity exchanges or a mutual fund, you open an account along with a trading account with a entity which is linked to a bank. So most of the banks have a securities arm as well. So when you open an account along with the securities, trading account, you always have an opportunity to reach out to these individual investment options with that particular account. So this comes from the thought that everybody wants to have more revenues to invest. So just to give an example, today we had a meeting with one of the startups here in Mumbai, who is actually working to create roads to invest in foreign markets, not just in India. So they are actually focusing. I mean, I was surprised that we are having this conversation today, and the person whom I met, who was a founder, actually was saying that most of our energies will go into households, and a woman investor also will be a key driver for our portfolio. So it was a coincidence that I met him today and had a conversation like this. So this is on the individual side of it. So we have avenues which can get created from a normal individual saving account into multiple avenues to invest money. On the other side, if you look at the ecosystem, if I can link the working woman or an entrepreneur getting into woman entrepreneur getting into a company or a business, starting a business. So we have options, or we have solutions today across banking to ensure that whatever idle money is there. So people have ideas, they come up with businesses wherein they get funded from somewhere, and that is not used at the same time. So we have surplus funds most of the time when the funding happens. It gets used up across a few months or years. So when these kind of things happen, as a bank, not just us, across banking, we have people who are actually looking at these as options to put it into liquid funds or any other opportunities, fixed deposits, which are shorter term. So we actually calibrate the investments into buckets. So if you are an individual and a corporate entrepreneur kind of a person as well, we can actually bucket the investments into use cases. You have an eventuality, or you have a celebration in the family, or whatever the end users as an individual, you can actually create plans around that. That kind of a mechanism is available. It can be flexible, it can be fixed. This is available as an entrepreneur, as an individual as well. So as we live in this particular era wherein most of the things happen on a mobile phone, smartphone, where there are apps available, most of these things happen with a click of a button. You don't have to go to a branch and do filling up a lot of forms and give a lot of documentation, etc. So there is a basic stuff which happens at the onboarding stage. After that, most of the things are completely seamless. So fintechs work with us in a long road to make sure that our solutions are much easier for the customers to use, and better solutions come into the market on a daily basis, on a regular basis rather. So we do work with many startups, fintechs, who bring in solutions for such individual investments, especially in the millennials and beyond millennials as well. So with age, there are different patterns of investments as well. So millennial might not be so keen to invest into a regular kind of investment pool. So where there is a prompt which comes to the millennials mobile phone that, okay, you have 50 rupees extra today. Why don't you invest this 50 rupees somewhere else? Because you can read the SMSs and you know that what kind of transactions, whatever balances are available for startups from startup side. So these things are available for new generation, Gen X kind of audience. For the other people, there are ways of approaching the investments through mobile solutions as well. So I'm sure there are many options for investments, to take place through a banking arrangement as such.
Great, thank you, Sanil, for laying that out for us. So taking it a step at a time. So I'm a woman. I now believe, yes, it is important for me to build my wealth and focus on my financial independence. I have begun with step one. I have started saving funds. Now, to go beyond that step and actually start investing, there are certain risks that I would need to be aware of. So Preeti, if I can come back to you, what would you, since through Lakshmi, I'm guessing there's a lot of financial literacy and education that you are imparting to women. What would you say are, just again, keeping it simple, what are some of the risks women should be aware of before they embark on this journey?
Great question, Bhavna. And before I begin on that, again, I come back to the Lakshmi and Women Power, Lakshmi and Women and Money Power report that we've done at Lakshmi. So by the way, I think when we say that women are very adept at saving, our report said 78% women save less than 20% of their income. Which is, the golden rule is that you save at least 20% of your income if you want to secure a financially good future, right? So I think that itself is a starting point where the education begins there, right? How much do you really need to save to ensure, and that saving, then next you think about where do you want to put it, right? I think one of the reasons, and this is a question that a lot of people ask me, that why do you need a separate platform for women? And that's exactly, it's related to the question you've asked me. Because when women get onto a digital platform, and if it's an investment platform, you ask them 20 questions out of this, about 10 are, what's your risk appetite, right? And that's the first red flag to us. Because I think as women, if as a woman who's worked hard to save her money, if you tell me, okay, what amount of risk are you willing to take with your money? It's the time for me to shut down that app, right? I don't want to take any risk with my money. So therefore, I think the education has to be turned on its head and really said, there is a risk in everything. Whether you cross the road, whether you put the money in your cupboard, whether you just leave all your money in savings account, whether you put it in mutual funds, stocks, commodities, there's risk in everything. I think it's important to understand what these risks are and how do you mitigate them. So for example, if you cross the road, you will look at a signal, you will say, okay, only when it is green for me to cross will I cross. Similarly, when you're growing your money, if you're putting it into mutual funds, it's important for you to understand that if you're putting it into, for example, first of all, it's important for you to put your money, or at least, put it into different baskets. And not just banking system. Apologies, Salil, but I have to say this, right? That you have to, if you have to beat inflation, you have to have some amount of exposure to equity. If you're going through equity mutual funds, then you have to understand that this is a long-term investment, right? That's the way to mitigate. So that's the sort of education, and also connect it more importantly to your financial goals. The way we do it at Lakshmi is say, look, what are your first put down, begin with goals. Say these are your goals, then slot them as per time. Are these ultra short-term goals? Are these short-term goals? Are these long-term goals? And based on that, choose the product that you want to put your money into, because by doing that, you're already mitigating a large part of the risk. The problem happens when I want to go for a holiday after 6 months. Okay, I have 1 lakh, I will need 2 lakh, and I want to do it in 6 months. Somebody said I can double my money in this stock. Let's put it in this stock, right? And 6 months later, you realize the markets are down and your money is even below your principal amount. I think so aligning time horizons to products and choosing them is the first step. And I think that's, investment is a very simple proposition. There are just two or three things that you need to keep into account. One is understand time horizons, understand lock-in periods if there are any, understand asset allocation. I think everything else, and you don't need a lot of products to, grow your money between equity, debt, and gold. You're pretty much set on your journey. Everything else is a lot of noise. So I think just simplifying and saying, here is what you need to do. Here is how you mitigate these risks. I think that's where that education begins. But more importantly, I think one of the things that we help women in the way we help women in understanding risk is get them onto a community of women. And Bhavna, you will relate to this. I think Pallavi will too, that, we may go to a doctor for our, say our son or our child is not well, and you go to a doctor and say, hey, this is what's happening. What do I give my child? And the doctor will give you a prescription. You will invariably come back and seek, some counsel from your friends, your mother, your sister, or, did this happen with you? What did you do? So I think that peer-to-peer conversation is also a very important part of learning and building that self-doubt and saying, okay, I can address this risk. And I think that collaborative approach is something that we as women really find a lot of power in. I've been an advisor, Bhavna, for the longest time. I've gone out and spoken to women, hey, this is the right way of managing your wealth. I don't think that's really worked, right? What's worked even better is for them to sit with their peers and say, okay, this is the advice I've got now, what do I do? So I think a lot of ways to address it, but I think really simplifying and saying, cut out all the noise, discuss, normalize money conversations is, I think, the way to go. And that's the way, at least we are doing it at Lakshmi, successfully so.
Great, great. No, I love those ideas, and I love that you mentioned cutting out the noise, because that overwhelm is what intimidates so many of us. One, as you said, is that a lot of the language out there is not even speaking to us in a way that makes us feel good about investing. And two, there's just so much noise out there. So I like what you said about just keeping it simple and just focusing on what you really need, and your point on really matching the time horizon of various goals to the riskiness of the asset classes that you want to invest in is also an important one. Pallavi, I'd love to continue on with a point that Preeti just made about having these collaborative conversations. Of course, it is important to involve your family at some level, or others at some level. Women don't often make these decisions in a vacuum. So how can we as women go beyond just playing a significant role when it comes to budgeting and saving, and now really participating at an equal level in investment decisions that the family that are important to the family? What is your advice to women? How do we make those conversations happen?
I would, echo what Preeti was telling, that the investments that women have been doing till date is below 20%. And there's a very beautiful concept which is said 50, 30, 20. So 50% of your, earnings go to your needs, and 30% goes to your wants, and 20% goes to your savings. Now, when it comes to a woman, the first thing that we miss out is talking on any of these concepts itself. So nobody is actually conversing with a woman and telling her, okay, this is how it is to be done, or I heard this is how it is to be done. Somebody was telling me like that. And, when it comes to a man would converse when he'll sit together, he'll say, this is what stock market is happening, and this stock went up, or this new scheme has been launched about money, etc. But when the same man, when a woman sits with him, he'll never talk on those concepts. So the first barrier itself is the talk, and we should start speaking on these terms of money. Now, when we go ahead and we speak about women, we always have to understand the fact that women are very good at budgeting. They are very good at savings. They are very good at doing stuff in their own way. The old system of the dabba money or the kitty parties, they would have kitty parties, they would bring the money in, and that money used to be there in some place, and they would try to invest it in the household stuff itself. So either they would get some furniture or bed sheet, etc., etc. We never told them okay, this is how you can start investing. uh, I I have seen a lot of products that have come in market. I have seen banking products that have come in market. I have seen a lot of startups that have come in market. There are very less women-centric, startups or women-centric products that are there in market. And the best thing I would say is Lakshmi's platform. Lakshmi's platform gave me a very wide insight of how women can start investment. And these platforms actually help women to understand what they can do with. So be it a simple product of gold is available. And do you know the women has the power of understanding the power of gold. So I know why gold is important. I always keep gold because gold can be used for emergency. I can use the same gold for my child's marriage because gold appreciates. I know it. Okay. But nobody told me it's an investment. And if I can do it, and if I'm told it's an investment, I think I can, shift on to different products. Like Preeti was telling, risk. I think the biggest barrier that women faces is risk, because she always think, if I put this money somewhere and I, what if something happens to my money? Because that is the I'm talking over here of a housewife, because for her that money is something she has kept, safe, and she wants to put it into safer products. Now, are we giving them those safer products to, start with? And I think the platforms like Lakshmi, the way they have started, and they have a blog system where the women, speak in their communities, and there is a conversation that is going on. The peer community itself is helping each other to start with investments. It's very important for a woman to understand what is there, not only in savings but also in investments, because pandemic taught us one very beautiful thing, that life is, mixed. It has its ups and downs, and be prepared for anything. I should be aware of what health insurance I've got at my home, because in emergency I can use that health card. So is a woman aware of what is the health card I'm having at my home? What cashless hospitals are linked to that health card? Am I aware of that? I think these talks itself would change, the thought process. And from savings thought, we'll come into the financial thought of investments and everything. Rest, I would give kudos to platforms again, which are promoting women. And this is how investments can start with. And as a woman, you are, you're told the granny, the Lakshmi of the house. Then you're said, the mother. You have so many roles. You are performing so many things at home. And you are the one who is teaching your child. So if you are aware of certain things, you can take it down to your children also. I definitely see a lot of women coming out and speaking nowadays, and this is a power of, the money feminism that is happening now. Yes.
Yes, and thank goodness for that. I think there definitely has been a mushrooming of that kind of support out there, and it's really great to see. Sanil, coming back to you, because it is important to keep this gender element in mind, given that because of the social conditioning, differences in social conditioning, and for other reasons, women have for the longest time not been as active when it comes to saving, and not so much saving but investing. How are you in your capacity and at Yes Bank making this process simpler for women? What are the tools, or what is the approach or process that you're using to support women along this journey?
Yeah, so I'm sure my investment advisory team will be, happy to listen to what Preeti said about the investment opportunity. So, I mean, we are always in a scenario wherein, as a bank, we do offer a lot of options to the customer. So we don't restrict our investment options to fixed deposits or a bank owned product. So we have a subsidiary called Yes Securities, who work with us for investment products. We have a wealth team. We have a team which is actually designing products and solutions for households. So we call the savings account solutioning as household solutions. So incidentally, the person who heads that particular product is a woman. So she is the one who designs what kind of solutions, savings account solutions, and link to that whatever investment options are available, how to promote these, etc. So she is the one who's heading it. Unfortunately, she's not joined us today. So that is something which we always have in mind. And we actually, as a bank, we launched something called Yes Family last year, December 2020, I think. So this is something which we, found out as a power of reaching out to the families. So we always have a concept as a bank that whoever is a customer, we normally reach out to the people who are working somewhere or who are senior citizens because they have surplus funds to deposit, etc. So there are a few routes which a bank takes to get their investments. But certain banks do reach out to the other elements who are not connected in this particular chain, which is essentially people who are at home, homemakers, and people who are millennials, who are kids who are growing up in the family, etc. So we actually launched this product as a consolidated solutioning for the entire family, not just for an individual or two people in that particular family. So we introduced as a family solution for banking, which will have a lot of options to invest and save. See, that is one option. Secondly, these days we use money for so many things which are mostly related to shopping or anything of that sort. So we actually conceptualize these are the use cases a customer in the household uses the money for, and design solutions across products, across channels, etc., to match those particular requirement. I'm happy to share with you that out of the entire campaign that we did, we would have onboarded at least around 25,000 household accounts, purely women accounts. And the ratio of the balances, because we always run on CASA balances, like I mentioned earlier, as a bank, we look for how much of deposit we can generate from the market. So most of these deposits are coming developing from the households in this particular segment, this household, the Yes Family feature. And this has actually prompted us to think wider. We are actually looking at making the engagement even more deeper. We are coming up with a couple of announcements. I can't disclose it right now, but we are actually coming up with a few more announcements on Yes Family. We will have more options, more opportunities for financial inclusion, financial literacy. Probably we will connect offline with Lakshmi as well to understand how we can, because we always work with people who are working on financial literacy, because it is good for, as a bank, for our own benefit as well, but as a community engagement, it is a good tool to ensure that people who are growing up, who are not in the banking segment, who are educated on what all is available. So especially with Lakshmi, because she's actually linking the main important core of a family, which is a woman of the family. So that is something which we will definitely be interested in connecting more. We're already doing a few things on this. Apart from that, we also have encouraged entrepreneurs from women. We have had 2-3 rounds of incubation activities which have been done earlier in the past in identifying women-only entrepreneurs promoted companies. And whatever banking solutions we can give, it's a given. We are here as a bank. We are definitely there to offer those solutions. Apart from that, we as a bank, we are connected with many spokes in the ecosystem of startups, like an investor or people who are advising how to start a business, how run a business. Even if you are a mother, you're a homemaker, you're doing a little bit of service in terms, cooking at home and giving dabbas to the society, or you're running a small business at home, if you want to go digital or acquire more customers through that. So we started from that concept, saying that that person should have an access to the solutions which are available for established entrepreneurs, established companies. So we brought a couple of fintechs into it and said that, okay, these are households who are coming into business, and what kind of solutions can be offered to them which can help their business to grow, help their business to set up first in the initial stage, and how can they expand their business, how can they reach out to more wider variety of audience as well as customers. So this is something as an entrepreneur, as a solution which they need to get all their visibility of their business, to collect money, to pay money, all those things are completely seamless. So these kind of things we did. We introduced a few of them to the investor community wherever they wanted to raise funds to beyond a certain level. There were 2-3 investment rounds which we helped women entrepreneurs raise through our platforms. Then mentoring. I mean, this is a official or a channel which is there, Shivolve, for mentorship. We also have done a few rounds of mentorship for women across the country, which has helped a few mothers to come out of their home chores and start a company and get into a business and start being the main breadwinner for the business house as well. So we are always looking out for. So as a bank, yes, we have our mentality of getting the business and stuff like that. But beyond that, there is a beyond banking kind of an opportunity that we want to engage with these people. And any kind of connects which can create more awareness for financial inclusion, financial awareness through Lakshmi and other channels, we are actually more than happy to work with those kind of initiatives. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for that, Sunil. I think now that we are towards the end, I'd love to open this up to questions from the audience. So please do submit your questions. And while we're waiting, I'll ask a question that is actually linked to what someone else also asked. So Preeti, you spoke earlier about keeping it simple, given the fact that many of us do that overwhelm of and overload of information does create resistance for many of us. So for someone who is on this journey, how do I go about building my financial knowledge? Let's say I'm starting from absolute zero. And then secondly, how do I compare the various financial products that are out there? Because now there is a plethora of financial products out there. How do I decide, given that, let's assume I am relatively risk averse, but I recognize it's important for me to take the next step? What would be your advice? How do we move forward?
Thank you, Bhavna, for that question. So, one of the things that I think even Pallavi said, and I mentioned earlier, is first of all, just normalize money conversations. We as women we shy away from talking about money. I say this for us as women. I say this for us as families. There was a time when it was inappropriate for families to have money conversations on the dinner table. For example, when I say dinner table, I mean with your children, with your spouse. I think today, especially post-pandemic, I think everybody would have realized that, life is ephemeral, and it's important for the entire family to be on board of whatever is the financial plan or wealth management plan or wealth plan for the family. So that's the first thing. I think just having conversations. I think women, in fact, on Lakshmi, the last session we did was about us. Psychologists actually come in and say, how do you begin money conversations? Because we had a lot of women saying, I don't even know how to ask this. So I think begin there. That's the starting point. Just being aware of what's being done with the family money, savings, etc. Second is really post that, begin your journey of, like I said, it's very simple. And I give this analogy all the time, right? When we start to learn about cooking, you don't really start with the pizza, right? You start with what's the basic food. And that's what you should focus on. And at the end of the day, on a tired, bad day, your comfort food is obviously the simplest home food, right? It is the khichdi or whatever it may be. So I think focus on getting that right. And that's what I mean when I say keeping it simple. Like I said, you don't need to know everything about the equity market, everything about the mutual fund, the number of mutual funds, and go down and choose the right mutual fund for you. So take baby steps. I think the first step is to say, how do I, and this is something that we as women know, right? Not put all my eggs in one basket. So therefore, where am I going to put these eggs, right? Where am I going to distribute my money between? And like I said, there are just three things: equity, debt, gold. And the first step into it is starting your own bank account, getting a bank account, getting comfortable with online transactions, because the friction point is you don't want to go to sort of a physical bank branch. I think we've sort of outgrown that, right? You don't want to go to a physical advisor. It's all available for you digitally and online. So learn how to operate an online banking account, create that, so that that's your inroad into everything else that you want to put money into. And then these are the three things: equity, debt. Begin with mutual funds before you even get down to stocks, because only 5% of people make more money than the stock index when they buy direct stocks. And to be amongst those 5%, you need a huge amount of attribute, huge amount of time. Most of us as women have million other things to do. So I think let an expert manager manage your money. Choose equity funds, choose your debt funds, choose an asset allocation. I always say there's a thumb rule: the age that you are is the amount of money that goes into debt, and the rest goes into equity. So begin by taking baby steps. You can even begin today with 1,000 rupees. You can asset allocate it between equity, debt, and gold through mutual funds. Small steps, 1,000 rupees today is something that we spend when we go out to have dinner, right? So begin with that. Once you start doing it, no matter how much all of us on this panel teach you about how to manage your money, how to swim, unless you jump into the sea, you will not know. So begin small, start with that, and slowly you will get into the flow. But the important thing is to take that step, open an online, get your online ecosystem, open a bank account which you can operate online, start investing, even if it is 1,000 or 5,000 rupees into equity, debt, gold. Of course, use the Lakshmi platform because it is simple, but do all of this. I think you begin that journey and then you will only get better. It's fairly simple to do this. I think we as women also shy away because we are, we feel that we will not be forgiven. Like you said, a homemaker, if there's 1,000 rupees you've saved with a lot of difficulty, you worry, what if I do the wrong thing? But it's not a large sum of money. 1,000 rupees, you will understand. And if you distribute it between three parts, you're not going to go wrong all the time. Know that your equity is for long term. Know that your debt is for short term. Know your gold is for long term. Just keep that in mind and start your journey. It is fairly simple. And if at all you have doubts, reach out to peers. I think it's important, whether it's your spouses, it's your ecosystem, or the Lakshmi community. Just come and ask your questions. And just begin. I think the one thing I keep saying is just begin. Like, don't stop yourself. Nobody in the world knew everything before they started investing. Nobody in the world knows everything about investing, even the people who make the most amount of money. So, first of all, remove that doubt that you have to know everything.
Great. Thank you for simplifying that. And to simplify that another layer, because we just got a question from someone saying, what exactly do you mean by go into debt? So we're not talking about going into debt. Debt here is different from that. So can you break down equity and debt in the simplest way?
Yeah, so I give this example all the time that, if I as Preeti wanted to start a business, and if I came to you and I said, hey, look, there's a great business idea, and, I need, say, 50 lakhs for it. I already have 30 lakhs, but I need 20 more. Some of you will come to me and say, okay, that's, I know you, Preeti. I trust you. So I'm going to give you that money for the next 3 years to, start your business. All you need to do is give me interest at these different, definite periods and return the money to me after 3 years. That's called debt. You're giving a loan to me. It is a debt. So typically when you invest into debt, you are literally lending money at a fixed interest. It is also known as fixed income. And if you really like my business plan and you think I'm going to run it beautifully, you tell me, okay, I'm going to give you the 20 lakhs and I'm going to become partners with you in this. And that's called taking equity. which is becoming a shareholder. That's the word share, taking, shareholding, shares, stocks, equity. That's what it means. So typically, if my business does well, you do well, or the price of your stock does well, the share price does well. If the business doesn't do well, then the share price loses its value. So that's as simply as I can explain it. So when you take equity, it is essentially taking a call on a business, the business owner, and a few other parameters to say, okay, I'm investing in this business with you. Whereas a debt is a more sort of a safer way where you're saying, give me a fixed interest. However, if in the absolute utopian world, all of us would give our money on debt because we like a fixed certain amount of money as return coming back to us. The only thing we need to keep into mind is that there's something known as inflation, which means the price at which everything that we consume is growing year on year, and the money that you save should grow at least at this rate or more for you to not lose that a value of money or to be able to afford the same things, and which is why one would invest into equity and not just debt. So I hope I've been able to simplify that equity and debt.
Yes, you certainly have. There's one more question, and I'll just read it out, and either Pallavi or Sunil, if you could chime in on this. So the question is, how can financial institutions do more in relation to safeguarding women through their services? There seems to be a gap when considering AML requirements and how this could be obstructing women from doing more for their financial independence, particularly in cases of domestic and financial abuse.
I'll take it.
Yeah, go ahead, Sunil.
Yeah, so okay, so with India has done a lot, which is first in the world. There are so many things which are working the best in this country as compared to other markets, like financial transactions, QR codes. So many things which has been launched in India in the banking services are kind of getting replicated across the country. So Aadhaar also was one of the key things which we did as a country to ensure that people have some identity card when they want to represent themselves somewhere. So as we speak, or a few months back, it started that we can get the minimum documentation based account opening or inclusion of a person into a banking system through an Aadhaar based recognition of a person's entity existence. So we work on most of the, so I would say 90% of the account opening for individuals these days from Yes Bank happens through a faceless interaction. When I say faceless interaction, we have technology to ensure you are sitting at home, you are connected through a video KYC kind of an app, wherein you show yourself on a particular camera and your Aadhaar OTP verification happens. You get your account open within seconds or within minutes. I wouldn't say seconds. So there are banks in the country who are capable of doing this as we speak. So there is no, I would say this is the least of barriers in entering a banking system which is existing right now. And probably it can get better. You never know. So there are technologies evolving. There are people coming up with new things. And at the same time, there is always a check from the regulator because all the banks have to work within the four walls of the regulations. So, and our regulator has been the best in terms of safeguarding the country's interest or the people's money interest, and at the same time giving the liberty to banks to do things which can be a convenience for the customer. So this is a very fine balance, which I would say kudos to the RBI and NPCI for that matter to have this kind of a balance as of now, as we speak in the banking system. And I don't think this can be a barrier for anybody to get into banking. AML, yes, there is always a check which happens for a person's background when the business is getting enrolled into a banking system. It depends on the kind of number of transactions. Like if you have numerous kind of transactions happening without a valid reason why it should happen, that is when all the AML checks, everything comes in. But as a normal individual, if you want to open an account, it's just a basic KYC of an Aadhaar, video KYC kind of a thing, which happens in a few minutes. So, like I said, not just Yes Bank, there are multiple banks who are into this. And it is, like I said, it is the least resistance or least hassle to get an account open. That cannot be an excuse for anybody to have, I mean, not to have an account with a bank. So I actually, when we engage with all walks of life people, even if I am traveling in a rickshaw also, I keep asking him, why are you not having? So I try to pay that person through a QR code or something like that, which is digital. So these days, after COVID, thanks to COVID and demonetization, most of the transactions we do is through a phone. We can travel with 1,000 rupees in a wallet, 1,000 kilometers, and you don't have to even pay anything in cash. That's the kind of thing happening in India. That's the digitization which has happened. So we always want to encourage people to have a bank account to start with, and anything related to that or anything attached to that is an outcome of further engagements. At least basic stuff is to have a bank account, which is, like I said, very seamless these days. Yeah.
Sorry, could I just add on to what Salil said? And I think really well
Yes,
said in the way he explained how easy it is. And we see that all the time, women having a lot of, I think India has the best technology today for anybody to go on to the digital platforms. And digital means ease, right? So to make use of that is something that you owe yourself. If the government has created that for you. There is a list of do's and don'ts when you open a bank account, when you set up anything on the financial ecosystem, you will get. I think that's the only safeguard that you need to keep. I think when you open a bank account, you get a list of do's and don'ts. Like, do not share your password with them. Do not share your PIN with anybody. Do not share your Aadhaar OTP with anybody. So these are the do's and don'ts. These are the only things that you need to keep into account. And the other piece that I feel is very important is to make sure that wherever you're putting your money, it is in the regulated ecosystem. I think that is the first question that anybody should ask, and women all the more, that is this regulated and whom is it regulated by? I think between these do's and don'ts in place and making sure that you're putting your money into any regulated ecosystem, regulated by SEBI, regulated by RBI, regulated by IRDA, I think you are set. That should put all your security concerns at rest.
Great. Thank you, Preeti. I think with that, we can now begin to wrap up this panel. Our time is up. So I'm just going to take a moment to thank all our wonderful panelists, Pallavi, Sanil, and Preeti. Thank you so much for joining us for this very important conversation, simplifying this whole process for us, and sharing with us how women can take those baby steps forward on their financial journeys. So I do hope everyone, all of you who have joined us, you will now take the initiative to take those baby steps. And like our panelists have said, you can start small, even if it's with a small amount. Get your feet wet, and you will learn along the way. So thank you for joining us. And Deepa and Paduri, I will hand it back to you.
Hi, thank you so much. That was a fabulous conversation for the last 1 hour. Okay, very engaging, very different thoughts. And I think the simplest way anybody can just explain those terms. Okay, I mean, that's a marvelous explanation. Yeah, I mean, I do. I have taken a quiz with a corporate and when I did that, I thought, okay, I should definitely make sure that I have enough in my pocket before I did it. I did it just by the fact that everybody else recommended, but then understanding in the simplest terms is something that I think I got the opportunity today. Thanks for that. Okay. And to that conversation, the one thing that resonated with me is that, okay, I think as women, we are always welcomed as Lakshmi. Let us live to that name in every possible way. That's the most important thing. I think it is just not saving money, it's multiplying the money that we can do, and we just have to take that step. Thank you so much, Preeti. Thank you, Sanil. Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you, Pallavi. It was such an awesome, engaging conversation. You can we are moving on to the next segment. You can feel free to stay back. It will be our pleasure to have you if you can stay back as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Badri, and thank you, everybody. Lovely meeting everybody. Thank you, Bhavna.
Thanks very much. Pleasure meeting everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi. Now let's move on to our next session, which is a panel conversation it's almost a CFO roundtable, which is strategic financial management for women in business. As an entrepreneur and also interacting with a lot of women entrepreneurs during a journey in forming a community for women, investing in the right avenues has always been a deep conversation. Where do I invest our money? Where do we invest our time? Do I grow my team or my brand? Am I doing the right things with the revenue that I am generating? How do I make sure I multiply by revenue? How can I make this business money management easier with technology? All these questions keep popping up. No matter what, how much you know, you still have these questions lingering on you. I think the CFO roundtable for Zoho and Shewalt's FinNext conference, co-presented by S-Bank, will answer some of these questions with veterans who have played an instrumental financial role in the growth of their company. These CFOs have built their company in uncharted territories and leveraging technology and enabling easier use of financial management in business. I'm very happy to introduce the strong panel of CFOs. We have Abhishek Gupta, who's the CFO of Myntra. He's a seasoned professional with over 16 years of experience in the e-commerce and FMCG industries. He joined the Flipkart group in 2018 and had served in varied roles, including his last role as head of finance, Flipkart Wholesale and Walmart India, where he was responsible for leading the business finance function for supply chain finance, operations finance, category finance, FP&A, memberships, monetization, marketing, and new business initiatives for Walmart India and Flipkart Wholesale business. Abhishek's previous career experience includes stints with leading companies such as ITC Limited, Abbott, and Unilever, where he was credited with leading large teams and setting the finance teams for success. Such a wonderful person to have in the panel to talk about the financial management for women in business. Welcome, Abhishek.
Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to this session. Thank you so much.
We also have Vidya Srinivasan, who is a CFO at Bata. From the CFO of Puma India and now at Bata, she proved to the world that hard work and dedication is all you need to reach heights. She is the type of the person who works insanely hard for extreme goals. As a member of the leadership team, she helps in understanding the business environment, developing a clear business strategy and execution plans, and comprehensive business plan. She is subsequently working with a management team in achieving the desired goals. She has over 23 years of experience in finance, strategy, business planning, and consulting. She also worked with organizations like Aditya Birla Retail, Glenmark Pharmaceuticals, Kearney in various finance leadership capacities. Such a wide variety across domains. We are very keen to listen to you and share and listen to your perspectives, Vidya. Welcome, Vidya.
Thank you. Looking forward to the session.
We also have Sumitra, who's a CFO at sastodeal.com. She's one of the few women leaders in Nepal. She's a true example of how one can achieve their goals with determination and hard work. She has a long association with PwC, Flipkart, and Myntra. She has handled multiple domains within the financial sector at the unicorns like Flipkart and is now responsible for Sastodeal's end-to-end finance and accounting functions, including working with marquee investors at the company. Welcome, Sumitra. Nice to have you here.
Thank you so much, Madhuri. It's a pleasure to be here, to be with such pioneers. Looking forward to the session.
We have Reshma Roy Suvish, who's the head of marketing Zoho Finance Suite. She's complementing the CFO panel here. She has 10+ years of B2B marketing experiences, leading the marketing teams for Zoho's fintech solutions spread across invoicing, subscription billing, expense management, inventory, and accounting domains. We had a lovely session from Reshma when we kickstarted this session. Very, very, very wonderful products of Zoho. We are very keen to use some of them as well, Reshma. Welcome and nice to have you in this panel.
Thanks, Baduri. Definitely the black sheep here, but I'm extremely proud and thankful to be a part of this panel. Looking forward to the next 1 hour of engaging conversations here.
That's how diverse we can get. I think we can, I mean, yeah, we need very engaging and stupendous conversations. So this is the best panel that we could have. So welcome, Reshma. And this is going to be moderated by Brahmi Kapasi, who's a senior associate, and she's also a financial content creator and influencer, experienced and associated with a demonstrated history of working in the banking industry. She's very skilled in customer service, research, and leadership. She's helping people expand their financial knowledge by content creation. I think the first 1 hour was so much engaging with people talking about her personal finances. Now we are looking forward for this session, how businesses can leverage knowledge and invest and multiply their finances. Looking forward. Over to you, Brahmi. Hello. Over to you, Brahmi.
Brahmi, you need to unmute.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes. Hi. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. Actually, mic was off, and it is a great to be here and a part of She Evolves, Zoho, FinNext, and which is co-presented by Yes Bank. And it's truly amazing to be with CFOs and going live and talking about the financial market, talking about the experience they have. Some have 20 years, 30 years experience. So it would be a great knowledge session where I can learn a lot and a lot from them. Yes.
You can go ahead, Brahmi, with your first question.
Okay. So I would like to question Vidya, who is a CFO. Welcome, Vidya, to this session, and we are glad to have you. So first question would be, from your financial perspective, what are the greatest concern a company should look for and why?
Okay, I think first of all, as a CFO, I am part of the management team, right? And so I think the answer should address what the leadership should be looking at from a company's perspective. So I think a lot of companies tend to be internally focused. From a business perspective, I think first you should be aware of what is happening externally. What's happening from a customer standpoint, what's happening from how your competition is doing, how is technology evolving in the last 2 years, what's happening from a healthcare perspective, what's happening from what your stakeholders are wanting from you. So those are all things that you need to be aware of and what the environment is saying. So all of it is extremely important, right? The second piece is that how is your business model internally addressing these things that are happening in the entire ecosystem? I think that's also very important. And I think it is also evolving fairly fast. And I think the last couple of years have just shown us that, it's coming to you, it can change from month to month. So therefore, whether it be from a sales margin profitability standpoint, how are all these external forces impacting you? And therefore, what do you as a company have to do to make sure that your business model kind of stays not just abreast, but also winning in those times, right? I think that is also important. The piece, I think we are addressing it subsequently. I think working capital tends to be extremely important in that context, right? And, how is your balance sheet actually dealing with all this change, right? Whether it be in terms of the cash that you have on hand, whether you need to be doing funding, whether you need to be debt raising. I think you need to constantly be watchful of what the next few months and what changes are happening, and therefore what it means for your company. And I think, at least in the last couple of years, I think my focus very much has been on the balance sheet even more than on the P&L. The final thing on what is most important or concerning to a company is, I think, something that, for example, there was a recent Forbes article which kind of did a survey of CEOs in 2022. And that Forbes article essentially said is also from an internal perspective, you also need to be aware from a people standpoint. And while that is something that is nice to say, I think now it's actually become a fairly business critical requirement there is labor disruption. There are people who don't necessarily want to come back to work with hybrid working. There is the challenges of attracting and retaining people. So all that is also an important concern for companies, especially those which lead with multiple, talents.
Yes, yes. So when you say working capital, working on balance sheet, how do we take human things into consideration, like human resources? Because I see there are many things which are neglected for human resources. So what's your take on that?
Like I said, that's why I said it's not just working capital, it's also human capital that you have to be, focused on. For example, you are, and I think, it's actually a very, I think it's currently changing, and I think it's going to change even faster. I think as a country for a long time, we have a lot of people, right? And therefore, if I can get people, right, I'll go get people, I'll train them, and they will kind of, be there. And then once I'm done with that lot, I'll go out and hire some more. I'm not saying all companies approach it that way, but in some ways, that was kind of a approach to human care. But now, for example, as a person, as a young person now, for example, you have multiple opportunities. You have a lot of avenues where you want to time, and you're also particular about it. You are like, I'm going to spend my time this way. And I think that is a change. And I think you either have to adapt to that change, or you will be left behind as a spot where you can attract, smart young talent, right? I mean, so I think human capital is important, but it's important not just to just say as a buzzword, but also in terms of how you're changing yourself.
Yourself, yes. One's attitude does matter while working in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so it was a great thing. Moving on to next question. What are the 3 to 5 key drivers to success in India uh, in this business that you watch the most?
Okay. So I'll try to be a little bit different from the textbook answer, though the first 2-3 things are going to be textbook. Obviously, your strategy is important. I think if you don't have a strategy for whatever, whether it be for business, whether it be for you as a person, I think you need to have a strategy, a plan of where you want to be, what you want to do, what is, how you're going to do it. All those things are important. The second thing is structure is important. Okay. I think while people say it, I think I went to business school, and I think after I was a chartered accountant. And I think one of the most useful courses I ever took was organizational behavior. I never thought, as a numbers person, that course is important. But I think every month in business, it teaches me that was the most useful course I ever did. I've been part of enough companies to realize that if you get your structure right, it's fine. It's a contributing factor. It's not the thing for success. But if you get it wrong, it can really mess it up. So I think structure is the second piece that is important. The third thing that is important is really people. And again, I think while it's the right thing to say, again, going back to my earlier point, there's a lot of change and complexity out there. So getting the right person with the right attitude is super critical for your success, whether it be as a company, as a team leader, as a entrepreneur, whatever be your state. Getting the right people and developing the right people. Like a lot of people are not the right people when you get them. But by the time they leave, they are the right people for you. And, you're also setting them up for better things in the future. So I think it's what is right for both of you is important. The fourth thing is culture. Again, culture is one of those buzzwords, but I think it's very important. I again, having been part of multiple companies, culture helps you in so many things. Attracting and retaining talent. People choose to work in places. Okay, people have choices. People move. So therefore, how you, as I get more senior in organizations, it's about me having the breadth of space to work, to take decisions, to operate. I think that's important. Companies that accept diversity, companies that accept there is speed in decision making, flexibility. I mean, I worked a lot with Myntra. It's fast, right? I think, and there is a difference between working with Myntra as a partner and working with some of the other. I'm not quoting which ones, because that is the culture that the company brings to the table, right? So I think that is important. Integrity and governance are important. So I think there are multiple things that culture means. And I think that needs to make a difference to you when you're evaluating companies, as a young person evaluating companies as well. And finally, flexibility and nimbleness. I think those are also very important.
Okay. Yeah, so I could relate few points as I also work, and I know how things are there in organization. And sometimes we are not flexible, sometimes we are flexible. So it should be both the ways. Yeah, like even the management should be the understanding, and even the employees or the human resources should be understanding to come to a one point and to meet the requirements. That is the planning stage we are what we have planned. So that's important, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vidya. Moving on to next question. This is for Abhishek Gupta. Hi, Abhishek. Hope you're doing well.
Hi, Brahmi. Thank you for inviting me to this very, very unique panel and excellent topic for discussion. Vidya and I don't know, Vidya, if you remember, we were a part of another panel. I'm glad to
Yeah.
be once again. I realize, Lakshmi, you're not the only black sheep in the panel. I'm the only male in the panel. But this is a topic which is very, very close to my heart, and it couldn't have come at a better time. We've just won the ET award for the best organization for women, right? So yeah, I'm happy to contribute in whichever way I can. Thank you.
Congratulations, congratulations on it. So yeah, moving on to the question, I would like to ask that if a company is growing at a good space, then how do we know that we have enough fund to the cap that growth?
Yeah, see, firstly, we should all realize the fact that what we are discussing today, exchanging ideas, suggestions, this is a very important topic of financial inclusion and strategic finance management for women in business. And like I said, I'm extremely glad to be here. Now, specific to your point on, how do we ascertain if we have the funds to keep up with growth? The answer can be very technical, but I'll try and make it simple for the audience. See, to me, there are three fundamental ways to define this. First is the operating cash cycle. Uh, the second is, the amount of cash which is needed to finance each dollar of sale, including, like how we mentioned, working capital and operating expenses. And the third is, really amount of cash when you're in your mature stage, amount of cash generated by each dollar of sale. So let me repeat, slightly tricky, but I'll try and make it simple. Firstly, all of us need to understand the operating cash cycle, right? And the operating cash flows. It is a measure of the amount of cash which is generated by the company's normal business operations. And it is a very, very good indicator for us to understand where the company is headed, how it is generating sufficient positive cash flow to maintain and grow its operations. Otherwise, it may require external financing for capital expansion. There are very unique ways these days available for you to tap into that external financing also. The second point, we need to get into the level of granularity for every entrepreneur and especially women entrepreneurs. What is the cash needed for you to finance every dollar of sale, right? Now, I believe that entrepreneurs should ensure that working capital management is as much an important part of business strategy as these days we give credence to growth and valuations, right? It has to be designed to ensure that a company is operating very efficiently. We have to monitor and we have to ensure that we are, like how Vidya mentioned, very close scrutiny of balance sheet, looking into current assets and liabilities and making the most effective use of it, right? Some other basic finance fundamentals can be cash flow to sales ratio. It can come in very, very handy. It will reveal the ability of the business to generate cash flows in proportion to the sales volume. And overall, being very watchful of the forecasting methodologies to ensure that your growths, your sale, and your operating expenses is well funded for. So I think these are some ways in which you can get an early warning signal in terms of how do you want to ascertain whether you have the funds to keep up with the growth in the organization. Yeah.
Thank you, Abhishek. I think Brahmi has dropped off, so I'll just continue with the conversation.
Sure.
My next question is to Sumitra. How important do you think is a CFO in the growth of an e-commerce company? Can you tell us a bit about your journey being a CFO from Nepal, and a little bit about how you were able to grow successfully?
Hi, Vandana. First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been an honor being on the same panel with Vidya and Abhishek with their level of experience that they have. So while Abhishek and Reshma have mentioned that they are the black ships here, I would like to call myself also one of the black ships, because I come from a different territory in terms of experience, right? So coming back to the questions, I think being a woman, I think the kind of empathy, agility that we have, and if we are to basically convert that into the business part of things, it becomes a very critical part of things, right? While Vidya also mentioned about the people aspect, and it's equally important at this phase of important to the startups also, because retaining the employees are also equally important, right? So that's why these factors can be very important in terms of being a CFO in a startup. Another thing is, my journey, when it comes to my journey as a CFO in Nepal, I think it's been an honor to and an opportunity to be, given such level and such kind of exposure. Though I come with much lesser experience when it comes to being at a leadership level, but it's been such a amazing journey till now, and it's been very fulfilling. I've been able to reach hands and with pioneers in the country of marquee, what do you call it, experiences, and it's always an honor to be listening to seniors and then understanding the part. It's always an honor to be with investors and understand their part of things when it comes to investment trees and discussion with respect to the strategy of the company.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. I think coming from a startup world, being a CFO, the strategy is very important, which takes me to my next question to Reshma. Reshma, I know that you have been supporting a lot of startups through Zoho and through your Zoho Finance Suite. And Zoho is all about making things easier for startups, and especially for entrepreneurs. With your dedicated, suite of services, be it with Zoho One or be it with Zoho Finance, it's always about making technology easier. So can you tell us a little bit more about how the Zoho Finance Suite, since we are in that angle, has helped entrepreneurs make financial decisions easier?
Thanks, Vandana. Thanks again for having me as part of the panel. So when it comes to Zoho, as I mentioned, we have close to 50 different applications, right? And the Finance Suite has close to about 7 different applications that takes care of different aspects of your business finance. It could be invoicing your client, it could be payroll management, it could be expense, travel and expense management, or it could be inventory management, right? So pretty much every back office functions that a business would have, we would have an app for that. And we started our journey in the Finance Suite way back in 2008 when we launched our first app, which was the invoicing application, right? And from then on, I think we have had numerous interactions with business owners, freelancers, SMBs, mid-markets. And now we are at a stage where even large enterprises have started adopting technology because of so many new regulations that have come up. Some things like, e-invoicing and GST and e-way bill. So more and more companies are looking to move to cloud for need of, needing to access data immediately, or to ensure that they are compliant with the government regulations that are coming. So there are many reasons why people would want to, move to the cloud itself. Now, what I have seen from my experience is that when it comes to Zoho's finance solutions, right, all of these applications are tightly integrated with each other. So a payroll solution is connected with your accounting, and accounting is connected with your CRM. And what at the end of the day it provides is it gives the business owner the visibility. And with that visibility, a business owner can then do a lot more, take actions. For instance, do I have enough money available to, invest in a new talent that I want to hire? Or do I have enough money available to, open up a new branch? Or do I have money to, buy that new piece of machinery? So that cash flow visibility, which both Vidya and Abhishek were talking about, right? These technologies essentially give you that insight immediately. So while you're on the go, or you're, sitting, traveling, you have your mobile app, you log into it, you can see, okay, how much of money is going to come into my business and how much of it do I need to pay out? So that gives you an immediate insight of what is my cash flow status as of today. And while you're managing all of the, day-to-day operations, now there are different types of businesses, right? You could be a freelancer, you could have like employees anywhere ranging from 2 to 1,000, right? So the needs of each of these companies are different. Now, if you have a well-established finance function in your company, then the finance team largely takes care of all of these administrative and compliance challenges which are there, right? But if you're a very, very small company, it's pretty much you and a couple of the other people in your company who would be taking care of all of these burdens, right? So that's where exactly Finance Suite has been helping a lot of businesses essentially take back the time that they otherwise would have had to invest manually in all these operations. So that's number one with the Finance Suite. Another thing about Zoho is that because all of these apps talk to each other, let's say a finance app which talks to a sales app will essentially give a salesperson an insight on, should I talk to a customer who has an outstanding available, or should I spend more time on a customer who has been paying me on time? So such contextual insights can not only help your finance team, but also help the employees from other departments as well, right? So these are a couple of benefits that we have seen that has been offered to, small businesses and mid-market businesses. And that's something that, I wanted to point out as to say why technology is really making a big difference in the lives of businesses.
Definitely. I think that is beautifully put. I think our day-to-day work and operations have actually been slowly replaced by technology. This is a good thing because it helps us to also get into more of emerging technology and to even innovate much better. Which brings me to my next question to Abhishek. From Myntra's standpoint, what are some of the tools that you have used that has helped in managing finance? Taking from Reshma's inputs on how Zoho Finance has helped. Can you name some tools that has helped your company to manage finance, and what would you suggest for the entrepreneurs that are there today in our community?
Yeah, thanks, Vandana. I think this is a very relevant question, and my answer to this would be again looking at the fundamentals of financing tools available today to manage working capital in any organization. And if we were to split it in terms of the need for financing, there can be a long-term need and there can be a short-term need. Depending on the need, we can have different answers. So typically, and I'll take a very generic stab at it, and I'll also let you know what we have done differently. Companies typically utilize short-term asset-based financing when they are first getting off the ground. And in general, this type of financing is used more for working capital. However, after a company grows beyond short-term asset-based loans, they will typically progress to cash flow-based bank loans. Now, at that point in time, when a company starts to gain scale and establish a track record, whether you access cash flow or asset-based, long-term financing definitely needs to solve for several strategic benefits, right? And again, to my mind, we should first start off with the basics of improving working capital, which will come in through business engagements and business negotiations, followed by some of the tools which can be amplified. We have definitely looked at financing programs like supply chain finance. We have pioneered that. Alongside, it has been a win-win alongside our vendors and suppliers. Bill discounting is another big tool for you to evaluate. Letter of credit, bank guarantees, and also in a day and age where we can look at refinancing and restructuring of debt. It is advisable to continuously restructure your debt and opt for refinancing of debt, because at the initial stage in which you will get that debt, it will be a slightly prohibitive rate, almost upwards of 14-16%. So you should keep evaluating at every stage of your company and growth life cycle. Also, it is important to keep looking at your balance sheet for assets which are non-working in nature to see if you can utilize them. Something like, say, immovable properties. Now, if you can utilize them, and generate some funding, it'll be very, very advisable. So I think some of these tools, if we tap into, it will definitely help in finance for the organization.
Beautiful. I think that's very well put. I think evaluation is very important. Evaluating how our company grows at each quarter, like you say, or each stage helps us kind of understand how we need to plan our finances as well. Which brings me to my next question to Vidya. So Vidya, I know Bata has a lot of retail stores and it's very different from the other panels that we have with us today who come from the e-commerce. From your angle, I would like to know how do you manage finance in functioning from retail stores? And what kind of tools would you probably suggest? Because a lot of women in our community, have a lot of product businesses. They come from small, medium enterprises. So for them, what would you suggest to manage finance?
I think the earlier panel, people were talking about financial inclusion. They were talking about various tools that are available. So I think at this moment in time, I think there are multiple tools available from the banking system where, people can adopt, and you can open bank accounts with limited KYC. There are now, essentially even your phones where you can actually swipe devices and get monies from. So I think the digital inclusion, which has happened so far, I think there are many, many tools available, which I don't think from a retail standpoint, I can spend all of, I cannot say one over the other, but any bank that you go to has at least 2-3 products which can be applicable for small businesses as well. But the piece I would say very clearly is to actually shop around. It does not, because I think obviously if you're accepting UPI payments and if you're accepting modes like this, the cost is very minimal. But if you go down any other path, and even for large businesses like ours, we do a fair amount of work, even in kind of shaving off, few basis points here and there. So shop around for that. Yeah. And that would be my limited advice, really.
Wonderful. I think that's beautifully, spoken about the difference between retail stores and e-commerce chain and what kind of digital inclusion that we need to look for when we are transitioning from a physical to an e-commerce or a digital space. Which brings me to a very basic question, which I'm going to ask Sumitra here. What do you think are the qualities for a CFO of a startup? And at what point do you think a company needs a CFO? Right? Because all of these decisions, yes, are very important from a financial standpoint, but when a company starts, it usually starts with, say, a CEO or a CTO. So at what point do you think we need a CFO, and what are the qualities do we need for them?
I think, first off, because it's a startup, right? So a CFO needs to understand the sentiments of the founders, investors, as well as the stakeholders, right? Because many founders may not be as financially sound, right? Because I've met so many of my, startup friends or startup enthusiasts who probably have an idea of, what kind of product they are going to, work on, but they lack so much of financial knowledge, right? So understanding of their knowledge of, financial soundness is very important for us, right? So that we can curate our reporting as well as our point of view accordingly. Right? Because we not just stand at a point of giving the financial decisions, but we also help them analyze those financial decisions with respect to their vision also, right? So it's very important to act as a bridge. So when it comes to point where a company needs a dedicated CFO, it totally depends on the nature of the company, and it also depends, like I said, to the financial what do you call literacy of the founders and the stakeholders involved. Right. As we know, while financial management is a key success factor, it is also one of the factors that financial mismanagement leads to basically, failure of many such startups. That is why we have the data that 95% of the startups do fail. Right. And one of the major reasons is financial mismanagement. So if we are to look into, and if the founders are to look into a sustainable way of working, right, and which Abhishek and Vidya have rightly pointed out in terms of working capital management, then it's important to have a technically sound person when it comes to financial management at the initial level itself. So whether they can decide to have a basically a revolving or a consultant kind of role, but it's important. While it's important to understand the sentiments and stuff, that is why it's I suggest having a CFO in place in the initial days will help a lot when it comes to building the company sustainably.
Right. I think it's about asking the right question on sustainability and inclusion, and also raising the right. I mean, I think a CFO basically asks the right questions at the right time.
Correct.
Know when you need to build a business and where you need to build it at. I think which is something that you have brought out here, which brings me to my next question to Abhishek. Talking about sustainability, inclusion, diversity, as a male ally, I think you have been a male ally for us today in Myntra as well, with your recent accomplishment of being one of the best workplaces for women. And as a male ally in this panel today, how important do you think is financial inclusion for women in business?
It is extremely important. When we talk about finance inclusion for women in business, I would just want to refer to a report and a research that I had referred to. Research done in this space suggests, if I have to look at the problems that are facing startups today, especially with women entrepreneurs, it is the lack of obtaining formal credit. Could be linked with presentation of collateral. And once the business is in operation, very similar to what Sumitra was mentioning, lack of financial planning. That could be another difficulty. Because see, most of these businesses, when they start, they are small, very young, accompanied with low revenues. So, the research also suggests that some women entrepreneurs may prefer to maintain small, easy to manage businesses. So I genuinely feel women need to have access to seminars and workshops like this one, and kudos to you, Vandana and team, about specific topics such as finance, cash flow management, preparation of business plans, very important, right? You're not here to live for the day. Loan applications, general business organization. So they should avail themselves to all information services which is available. Seek assistance from experts in the field. Please network, form formal as well as non-formal networks. They all can help you. Your friends, your colleagues and experts can all help you. If required, reach out to experienced mentors and draw from networks to act as advisors. Now, the type of financing which is required by women are largely in the space of supplier credits and loans. Now, again, I'm referring to the research. Obviously, there has been a very good positive shift in India led by digital transformation. But however, women are still very much dependent on informal sources of financing. It could come from relatives, it could come from their own savings, and so on and so forth. So it is good to see a very positive shift, but it is imperative for entrepreneurs and women leaders to have a very good understanding of finance P&L below EBITDA, right? Which is where the actual fun is, which is cash, right? A crash course, or maybe a basic knowledge in terms of ways in which financing works. And at times, it also becomes important to bring in a business lens. The point that Vidya was mentioning earlier, to accounting. Devise some of your decisions that are very cash flow friendly, which is where supply chain financing comes, which is where credit period negotiations comes, which is where looking into innovative new age tech ways of financing comes, which doesn't create a requirement for your funds to get actually blocked. And coming back to Myntra, yes, I'm very proud to be a part of this organization, because we believe in holistic inclusion, not just financial inclusion. We are committed to have a very sustainable and a long-term D&I practice at our workplace. And there is a very, I'll give you a business spin to this. There is a very strong business case for us because 48% of our customers are women, right? And it is a business need for us to have a balanced gender diversity in the organization. And there are tools that we deploy very aggressively to strengthen this inclusion charter at Myntra. where we look at hiring diversified talent, right from senior leadership. Our CEO, half of the senior leadership team. We look at campus programs. We look at also exploring the LGBTQ plus talent base. Some key steps that we have taken and taken it to the next level in terms of key life transitions, motherhood and beyond. We have a very strong project in the form of FinNext, where we encourage back to work program for women on career break. And overall, how do we ensure and enable development in the form of 1:1 mentoring for women employees by senior leaders, people manager training, and supportive policies. All of this obviously has resulted into many awards and accolades, including gold recently in the ET Human Capital Awards. We were given one of the top 100 organizations, the best 100 organizations to work for women, and a great place to work for, top 50 places for women. So I think all of this will fall in place if you have a charter which is led from the front, enabled by policy, and leaders walk the talk. So yeah, that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Abhishek, for including women and having such a great space to work, first of all. And second, I think your point about women entrepreneurs understanding and having a knowledge transition of even the niche and core areas of cash flow and accounting is very important aspect to start a business itself. Even if you're not a finance background person, I think that basic is something that they need to start off with to build that confidence that they have on managing the finance of a business. Which brings me to my next question to Reshma. Since when it comes to a lot of startups that you are with, for women as entrepreneurs, like I was asking Abhishek, what do you think are the 3 important financial aspects every entrepreneur should keep in mind?
So Vandana, to me, based on all my experience that I've had talking to, entrepreneurs, women and men, all types, right? I would probably say there are 3 important critical investments that people should do, not necessarily just finance. But the first thing is to invest in technology, any kind of technology, right? As you're a startup, you don't have time, and a lot of your time goes away in mundane activities. So technology is something that plays a role here to give you that time back, right? Whether it's administrative work, whether it is a follow-up, whatever it is, technology can play a role here. And this is even more important that you do at a starting stage, so that when you are ready for that scale up moment, you are at your optimum speed and you are able to move fast very quickly. And you don't even have to invest a lot, because there are a lot of tools in the market available which are absolutely available for free. There are many startup programs, incubators, and many vendors out there actually offer a lot of solutions for free until you reach a critical threshold revenue point, right? So maximize, go reach out, talk to peers, understand what solutions are out there for you, see if it works for your business, and start investing in them, right? So that's number 1. Second thing would be, like all the panel members over here, I think the basic understanding is that any person who's starting a business may not be sound in financial knowledge, right? So even if you don't understand the basics of debit and credit, and all that, I think it's very important for them to learn how to read a financial report, like all your 3 important reports, right? Your profit and loss, balance sheet, and your cash flow statement, right? I'm somebody who came from a nutrition background, right? And I did my MBA, and then now I'm selling like finance products, right? So it's very important for you to even understand that language. So if you're a business owner and you hire a CFO or you have a chartered accountant, right? If you want to even talk to that person in the language, you need to understand what to ask. So it's very important to understand at least how to read these 3 statements for your business. And finally, third one, if you yourself are not a chartered accountant or a person with a finance background and you've started your company, it's very important to invest in a chartered accountant or a CFO, because you need to look at them as partners for growth. You cannot play multiple roles all the time, right? So every player in your company organization has a role to play. And it's important to have that business partner, because for your growth from startup to scale up, this person plays a very important role. So these 3 investments, definitely important, must have for all startups.
Wonderfully, I think that was wonderfully put. I think, right, we need a partner for growth. I think I'm going to take that word there and say that, it is important to have the right partner for growth. And the 3 most important things that we need to invest on, right, apart from finance, are also a lot of these tools that would help us and technology that would probably make it easier for us to grow. And that choosing that right partner when you're an entrepreneur and you're just starting a business, I think is very crucial. And I think that you had laid out the 3 points very nicely there, which I'm going to take from there. I'm going to ask my next question to Sumitra. What are the technological best practices that will help women make good financial decisions? What do you think those would be?
First off, like Reshma mentioned, right, invest early on the accounting related technologies. I think it's equally important to focus on the data, right? Because the data and analysis will help you understand your numbers and KPIs well, and it will also help you make the right decision when it comes to understanding the business as well as taking the next set of decisions, right? And also, I earlier mentioned, if you're not technically sound when it comes to understanding the numbers or understanding the finances, having a technically sound member in the team would probably be the right approach, right? Because we can't do everything in a go, right? And if we are into investment trees, right, understanding the technicalities and implications beforehand when it comes to the shareholding structure, right, and as well as different kind of shareholding instruments, financial instruments that are available in the market, it's very important to understand those, right? Because it will impact the founder's position as well as their vision and the future, right? So it's equally important to understand the technicalities. And I'd like to repeat the third thing again, that it's important to understand your balance sheet, your P&L, and your working capital situation. Since it's the startup, most of the time the focus is not in the numbers, right? The focus is in terms of business growth and stuff, right? So investing in terms of probably a basic ERP will also help, right? But understanding the numbers is equally important, and getting that hold of the P&L and balance sheet of the company is important. And one of the things which I completely focus when it comes to working in Sustodil is always have options and comparisons when it comes to different options available, right? So there are so many options available in the market today when it comes to technical tools, right, at different junctures. But it's always important to have options available and understand and comparisons, right? So that's equally important when it comes to comparison of both from the point of commercials as well as the optimization of the tools that we want to do. So these are the things that I do.
Wonderful. Talking about optimization, taking from that, my last question is to Vidya. Vidya, how do you determine how much to invest back into the business from the revenue? So if entrepreneurs are able to see revenue coming into their business, how much do you think they need to reinvest into the business? And what is it, how?
I think that's a very, that's actually a very difficult question, because it really depends upon the stage of business that you're in. Like if you're a startup, every little penny of revenues go back into growing the business, and you are kind of trying to make sure that you're building up for growth. If you're somewhere in the middle, I would actually start saying that, I mean, it goes back to some of the things that like Abhishek was talking about and Smita was talking about. Ultimately, the whole goal is to manage cash flow, right? And, so you start out and when you start managing cash flow, I think the first piece, I'm not talking about the phase when you're in the every penny counts and everything is going into growing the business kind of zone. Or hopefully once, with luck, if you're out of that zone, you're now in the next stage where the businesses start becoming self-sustaining. You have operating cash flow. You can now start thinking about the future. That's where I think actually having a strategy and a business plan comes into focus, right? It's not a question of, there you are really saying, okay, this is my strategic blueprint. This is what I'm going to be doing in the next year, 2 years, 3 years. For this is how I want to use my cash. I want to use so much for inventory. For, especially if you're in a retail business, that's a big call. How much of money am I going to put into inventory? How much do I grow inventory? What are the bets I take? Because that's a big piece of risk that you're taking. Second, how much am I going to put behind growth? I think at the end of the day, the judgment calls of how much money am I taking out of the business are like much later on in on the stream of a company, right? Because ultimately you are returning funds to the shareholder. You will start thinking about your dividend strategy and things like that. But that comes, I think, when you're in the mature stage of business. In the first two phases of business, as a startup in the middle thing, I would strongly prioritize. I think most companies, I think, of course, I read some data which said that 25-30% of the startups fail because of how they pay and allow the losses. But 70% fail when they don't get their working capital and their cash piece right, growing too aggressively, not knowing how your funds are getting managed, not knowing how you're going to finance your year 2, year 3, or your third quarter, fourth quarter. Those are not being able to pay because you spent on other priorities. I think those are the things where you kind of have different priorities. So I don't know whether that addresses your question, but I think the question is, when do you move from operating cash flow to actually starting to fund your balance sheet in some of these areas? And then how much do you put money into each of these buckets? So you actually get to a cash flow positive after all those investments. Then you get into the stream of then your dividend strategy.
Wonderful. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's a very practical way that you have told us of how to determine when to reinvest in the business and when to know which part of growth you need to see as well. So I think it was a very practical way of putting it out, and that is what we need, a very straightforward answer on how we need to invest and where we need to reinvest in our business. So with that, we are coming close to our session today. I think some of the key words that I've taken from here is cash flow, is working capital, is growth, and prioritization. I think these are the 4 main points that I can think of when we are looking at growing our financial aspect when it comes to business, especially for women entrepreneurs. Why we need eyes and why we need that confidence when we try to build it. So I think it's a very beautifully put out and a very straightforward conversation that we have today from all of the CFOs and of head of marketing of Zoho Finance Suite. I think that puts you out also into the panel here because we've been working with so many startups. So, so I think it kind of relates all of you together. And I think it was beautiful. So I just want one last word from all of you. When you talk about financial growth for women, can you tell me the first word that comes into mind that women have to keep when they start their business? What would it be? When it is financial growth for women in business, what is the one word that they need to keep in mind? Reshma, if we can start with you.
I think it's, the knowledge that you get by talking to people, reading about it. It's just getting as much as information as possible to do whatever you want. So while it's not just limited to finance, it applies to all forms of your life, but basically seek out, read a lot more. Everything is available on the internet. The more you learn, read, talk, you're, equipped to handle any kind of challenges that come.
Very true. Speak, read out and get the knowledge. I think that is the one point. Abhishek, what about you?
See, I partially addressed this. For most women, fortunately or unfortunately in India, it comes from the financing when they want to begin business comes from informal sources, their own savings or informal credit from relatives and so on and so forth. How can they get more and more aligned to the formal channels? And again, to the point that Reshma pointed out, learn, become aware, attend seminars and workshops, do a crash course. There are multiple modes of financing available today. New age tech companies are available. This can really help them grow at a speed which is beyond their own imagination, right? And I heard someone in the previous panel say, I think it was Bhaduri, that women are Lakshmi. They indeed are. So you just need to be fully aware and tap into the resources available to you, and the sky is the limit.
Right. Women are Lakshmi. Yes, we would definitely keep that in mind when we start our business with a lot of confidence and vigor. Sumitra, from you.
I think, the financial learning starts from home, right? And who better than women when it comes to understanding the finances of home, right? So they already have knowledges when it comes to how to manage, right? And I think after that it becomes the knowledge that Reshma mentioned, right? So I think asking for help, speak out when necessary is equally important, right? Because like Abhishek mentioned earlier, we kind of women in general kind of tend to be in their own cocoon, and they don't kind of speak out when it comes to help, right? So it's important to speak out and ask for help when needed. So I think that's really important.
Very true. I think asking for help is very important. That's where the mentors come in place here, where they're able to mentor and guide you into the right direction. And like Vidya pointed out before, where to invest and what is the niche areas that you need to look out for, I think is something that a mentor can help. And that help is something that we need to ask out and be very vocal about. So I think that was a great input there from you, ma'am, Vidya.
Okay, I'm going to pick up where Abhishek left off, and I'm going to talk about it from the perspective of a woman entrepreneur who's looking to grow the business. My one word is marketing. Okay, I think we tend to be, if you look at all the successful entrepreneurs, they're out there, they're talking to people, they're building bridges, they're building connections, because what do you need? You need cash for running businesses. And cash comes from outside, not generally from within your family and friends, especially if you're building a scalable business. So you need to become very good in marketing, not just in finance, right? Marketing yourself, your product, your company, all of that. And that is not something that comes naturally to most women. It comes to some, but not naturally to most women. So put yourself out there.
Wonderful. I think it's about marketing yourself now, especially with social media coming into picture. It's all about blowing your own trumpet. I think if you've gone past the stage where they say, do not blow, they're actually now saying, please blow your own trumpet, talk about yourself, boast about yourself, I think is very important. It's a beautiful way to end the session today with some amazing pointers and some inspiration, because so many women feel the stereotype that we have grown up with is that women do not know finance. And that is why we wanted to do this and run this, saying that, hey, we do have a lot of women role models out there and mentors out there to tell you that finance can be handled by women. And even if you feel it is not, we have technology. We have, support from some great companies that help you out there and to give you that confidence when it comes to finance. So I think that was our objective through the entire, day today. And I think it was achieved thanks to the panel members here. Thank you so much for being a part of the FinNext Mentoring Conference for Women today. And I hope to work with you again. And I hope that you will be mentor for our community of women to help them grow and to be very financially sound when they look at growing their business. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Vandana. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vandana. Thank you, everyone.
Hi. Yeah, I think finally we could not have asked for a better Friday evening to have spent a Friday evening than talking about finances, right? May it be personal finances or business investment. Okay, I mean, wonderful 2 hours spent. I take this opportunity to thank. We take great pleasure in have hosted this FinNext Financial Mentoring Conference for Women in partnership with Zoho, co-presented by S Bank. It was a great pleasure to have run this program very successfully for the last 2 hours. I'm sure a lot of the audiences would have had plenty of insights and perspectives, and I hope that they go back and start acting on them, not just leave it here. I also take this opportunity to thank our gift partners, Myntra, and our ticketing partner, Townscript. It's also our pleasure to thank community partners, Lakshmi, Her Money Talks, Shenomics, Women's Web, and EVIT. I think lot of these have come together to make this happen. It was a wonderful 2 hours spent. Thank you so much, all of you. You all have a great weekend, and please start putting all these insights into action. I hope this was very useful, and we look forward for continued partnership and much more to come with each of you to make this country, to make this world a better place.
Thank you.
Thanks, Audrey.